co-founder and member governing council SSF, to take over from me for the welcome address and some other formalities. Rakesh Sinha.
Thank you. A very good morning to each one of you. Warm welcome to this day and the event. On behalf of BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Shared Services Forum, and Economic Point, I'm really proud and feel privileged to host each one of you here for this evening and day. This event was conceptualized about a few years back about how to bring some of the practitioners of the HR space together and share learnings, challenges, also share some of the failures, because it's important to share that so that others can adapt and adopt what they should do differently. We wanted to keep it very focused in terms of the practical examples, and we obviously encourage all the speakers. In fact, there has been times that I've been talking to a few of the speakers, requesting them to be very practical use cases driven kind of a conversation to provide how we can do something differently. And some of the leaders here in the group would like to take back some of those learnings to apply back to their organization. Same time, very clearly we see each one of us in the room has a lot of experience ourselves of running similar nature of organizations, maybe small size, mid size, large size, etc., and have our own kind of an experience about some of those practices. It's important that we participate during the interaction, bring different perspectives, share perspectives, and ask questions as we need to ask questions. Some on the stage, some could be during the break time when you have a break hours to catch up, network, etc., The flow of the day, the way we have looked for the day point of view is to start with some of the visionary sessions, talking to the leaders who have really created large organizations and running and managing large organizations. Went through the multiple years of learning and multiple years of success and multiple years of challenges and opportunities to really create a dream organization to work for. And that's where we will have some of the senior, seasoned veterans here, and we are very proud and privileged to have some of you here. As we progress, we will have more practitioners view from the current trend standpoint in terms of some of the areas like there's a lot of buzzword about digital, AI, RPA, ML, etc., in all the spaces. And I'm sure the question in the morning also somebody asked me about is how it can be apt from an HR perspective. And we said, okay, there will be cases about that. And you will have some of those conversations happening through the afternoon. As we progress towards the late afternoon, we will have some dynamic conversations about what's a very interesting one. One conversation about something with compliances, because there's a lot of dialogue about compliances. Is the compliances all about ticking the box? There's actually legal requirement where compliances are important today to project your organization differently and not just tick in the box. It is just not legal, it is also about how to attract talent even sometime in the organization and create that kind of workplace. And as we move towards the evening, we'll have a conversation about challenging some of the mindsets of the leaders and also going in terms of conflicting connect about the talent requirement and the millennials. There's a lot of conversation about millennials, their need versus organization need, and how to balance that and how to match that. That's a kind of a flow which we have kept for the day. We hope we'll be able to leave some takeaways for all of us, which we can really go back and reflect, and may not be directly able to apply in some areas, but may be able to relate back with the organization. As I keep on saying, there are sometimes it's best in class to best in context, because you contextualize whatever you are creating as a practices and learning. So with this note, I once again warmly welcome each one of you to this third HR Leadership Summit, and look forward to a very engaging, conversational day full of learnings and obviously a lot of takeaways for each one of us. Have a great day. Thank you. Now, as I move ahead, I just want to have one more as part of rituals as we have. We just request Dr. B.V.L. Madhukar. He's a mentor, guide to many of us here from BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry to join us to the stage, please. I also request Mr. Ravi Ramakrishnan, founder for Shared Services Forum, to join me on the stage, please. I request Ravi and Dr. Madhukar to do a bit of ritual in terms of very important thing. We want to felicitate our chief guest for the day, Shri Ved Prakash ji. I request Mr. Ved Prakash ji to please join on the stage, please. Round of applause. Shri Ved Prakash has been the chairman and managing director of MMTC Limited since March 19, 2015 and served as its director of marketing since September 21, 2010. Power projects at MMTC, he serves as the chairman of Neelachal Ispat Nigam Limited. He has been a whole-time director of MMTC Limited since September 21, 2010. He served as the director of MMTC Limited from February 19, 2010 to September 21, 2010. Mr. Prakash studied at Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. He is also the chairman of Scope Executive Board. We warmly welcome you, sir, to the day-to-day. Thanks for your time. Now I request team to bring a shawl. I would like to felicitate Mr. Prakash. Ravi and Dr. Madhukar, again, I request you to please do the honors. Thank you. And with this now, I obviously trouble you guys a bit more. I request if you all can just help to light the dance so that we want to start any lightly right away. I would request the governing council members of BRICS Chamber of Commerce, Shared Services Forum, Economic Point leaders to join us, please here. Now this I would request Shri Ved Prakash to do an address to us, and and share with us some of the experience of a journey at MNTC and how he looks at the people side of the practice. So over to you, Mr. Vikram. Can we have a round of applause for him, please?
Dear esteemed dignitaries of as Dr. Maskot and friends, it's my great honor to be invited as chief guest of this third National HR Leadership Summit 2019, organized by the Exchange on the theme for tomorrow. HR leadership in organizations must be taken on a serious note and ensure that of the people selected in the organization, at least 10% are leadership material, implying they have the potential to take on leadership roles in the coming years. In fact, we must think and deliberate about the best ways to prepare a pipeline of potential leaders ready to take on leadership roles whenever required. For an organization, it is highly significant to have a ready pool of next generation leaders who have risen up the ranks within and have comprehensive understanding about the organizational vision, mission, and culture inside out. This is above all relevant for the age of information revolution when change is taking place swiftly. It is not enough to try to keep your high performer motivated through regular professional challenges and busy performance appraisals. Better leadership must ensure that developing the next generation of leadership requires a dedicated and detailed approach with a long-term vision and comprehensive programs to achieve the same. Leadership roles often fall vacant as we experience unexpectedly. An organization might see a sudden or witness of flight of senior level people. A critically important executive might suddenly face a serious illness. Another may decide to seek premature retirement, etc. Hiring executives from the outside is always a possibility, but it often creates culture clashes. Let's remember that leaders cannot be developed in a day. Therefore, it always pays to have a select few individuals who are already equipped to be considered for those positions. Organizations should therefore be serious enough for a leadership pipeline building, much like they are serious by the need for increasing output and efficiency. When you want to grow selected group of executives with long-term vision, you must also be ready to make investment in their education to reskill and upskill their abilities. Executive MBAs are one example of such initiatives. However, it is important to underline that formal study constitutes only 10% of learning, while as much as 70% is learned on the job, and another 20% through the right mentoring and coaching. So we all appreciate the role of organization to build leaders within. There has to be a well-placed plan designed in every organization to offer this comprehensive learning. Promoting a culture of creativity and innovation is another important intervention organization needs to understand and undertake. This must include learning experiences that allow and encourage employees to do things differently. For example, if an employee has a new take on problem solving, it must be encouraged and put into action rather than discouraging him, even at the risk of failing, because by allowing his freedom of developing new creative approaches, you are also increasing a new creative energy. Unfortunately, most employees are busy in their here and now of the things, while the creative approach and conducive environment for creativity takes a back seat. It also stops employees from going out and doing something different and innovative for the organization. One of Google's famous work ideas included what was referred to as the 20% time, under which employees were encouraged to spend 20% of their work time outside their regular projects. This was aimed at fostering a culture of creativity and innovation. However, for this to happen, the organization must ensure that employees are in practice allowed some time to experiment their way out of creating new out of the box solutions. Organizations and managers must therefore take the onus of creating these experiences for employees. The ability and approach of an organization to prepare future and prospective leaders depends on promoting an ecosystem that focuses on leadership development, a comprehensive, multi-pronged strategy that helps train employees with confidence, provides conducive environment for their growth and development, and nurtures the leader in them, therefore, is must. At MNTC, we do adopt certain practices to develop leaders. One, every week, half a day, we give an opportunity to our young selected leader to give a presentation on any subject of his liking, and where all chairman directors all are present and anybody can ask any questions. This kind of building leaders conference forming sessions. Every week on Monday, we have an open communication meeting where the chairman and directors are present. In our organization, there is a comprehensive appraisal system which identifies your potential for growth, your needs for training, and we have tied up with the best of institutes at IIMs, IITs, and even abroad. We train people, the leaders, and ensure that the leadership pipeline, the succession planning is developed. There are many ideas which I can forward to next Geneva, which MNTC is following these practices, and you can all take advantage of that. Now, without taking much time, I welcome you all to this summit and wish that the learnings from this are effectively applied in your respective organization. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sri Prakash ji. It's really an honor to have you as our chief guest this morning. May I call on stage Mr. Anand Maheshwari, Founder Director, Printest Global, to please present mementos to our honored guests seated here. As a mark of our gratitude to Sri Prakash ji, we'd like to offer a small memento being given given by Mr. Anand Maheshwari. May I request Mr. Maheshwari to offer mementos to Dr. B.B.L. Madhukar, Director General, Briggs Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you, sir, for being here. And a memento to Mr. Ravi Ramakrishnan, founder and CEO, R Value Group, and founder, SSM President. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Dr. Akhil Basre, CEO, Akhil Basre Consulting. So for the inaugural address this morning, we have Dr. Akhil Basre, very well qualified university rank holder, a certified executive coach. Dr. Basre has 45 plus years of experience in industry, worked in various HR roles with Unilever in Kenya and India, and has served with Motorola, Shell in Malaysia, and his last corporate assignment was with IBM India Limited as Executive Director, Human Resources, currently CEO, Akhil Basre Consulting. So for the inaugural address, Dr. Akhil Basre.
Good morning. I thank Ravi and friends for giving me the opportunity to come and participate and learn from others. Dr. Madhukar, very veteran guru of all of us. So good to see you again, sir. Very Prakash. Colleagues like Pravir Jha, who are, in my opinion, likely people to talk about tomorrow because they've changed yesterday into today, and they are about to change today into tomorrow. So it's a privilege to be here with us. When we have a topic like for tomorrow or about tomorrow, the first thing that I notice people talk about is VUCA. It's just like Gisa cliche that the VUCA word has actually lost its meaning. So I will actually not talk about VUCA because at the end of the day, changes have always happened. Right from the revolution days to the industrialization to liberalization, to name it, and change happens. So talking about volatility and uncertainty is actually a cliche. What I would like to focus on is that what transformation is happening right now, affecting all of us in almost immediate present, and how it's going to really change the way we manage our business in the future. And then conference like this will be a good opportunity for people like me to learn how to deal with it. All of us are expert at reading about what change is happening. What do we do about it? So I'd like to put my thoughts together in three sections, and I call it 3S. First is, look at the speed of change that's happening. And that's significant because the speed has accelerated. You must pay attention to what impact it is having on the change itself and the impact the change is having on the organization and individuals. Second S will be on the suddenness. Things are happening so suddenly that sometimes we are actually taken off guard. We're not prepared for sudden changes to happen and it suddenly stares at us. I'd like to talk about that because the lack of preparedness or anticipating that is one of the skills that HR community will have to really hone up, how to anticipate, and that means learning about business. And the last S is about security of job. There is so much halagulla about People will lose jobs, robots will take over, AI will replace everything. So I like to talk about speed first. You see the speed of technological change, two things are happening. Technology has become cheaper. I spent a good part of my career in Motorola. In the 1980s, a chip, a semiconductor, a high-speed semiconductor, those days high speed was different than today's high speed, was something in the tune of 150,000 US dollars. In exactly 19 years, the cost came down to $35. 2 decades, but from 150,000 to $35. Now, when the cost goes down, the spread of technology increases. You see the cell phone. We're so happy that almost everybody can afford the technology and use it. So the speed has increased because cost has gone down, and the application of technology has made meaning to almost every sphere that we are attached with. And because of the wide application, it is not only IT or technological companies that are affected, and there's a misconception that only big multinationals or large corporations, Indian houses are affected by this. It is affecting even small scale and medium scale industries. And we can have a lot of examples. For example, yesterday, I was reading somewhere that in a flood affected area in China, 3D printing was done on housing. I saw a whole video of how 3D printing is done. That house is constructed in 23 hours, the basic structure. The inside, the decorations and the putting fittings together is done by humans still. But imagine making a house in 23 hours, this basic structure. And when we have this unfortunate Fani in the eastern part of the country, thank God we didn't have much loss of time. Imagine those of technology, how much impact can have on society. Or if you want to set up a factory. And I was involved in engineering work for setting up 2 factories, and the project office would be there forever and ever. And right when the factory comes up, one would wonder whether one would retire there. It's not only that, 3D printing getting application into small things. Now at the end of the day, when the technology cycle comes in, many of us are under notion that this will not affect me. It's too far. And that is a complacency that sets in our mind. That perhaps I will not be affected. My organization is too much different industry or too safe in its cocoon to be able to be affected. And we stay quietly, it's almost like putting a head in the sand and hoping the storm will pass. And that is where the speed and the suddenness combination that I talk about to share makes a big difference. If you look at robotics, and in a plant in Chennai, the car plant in Chennai, I saw the entire painting work of automobile body done by robotics. And we have never worked 15, 20 people with multiple lights in the paint shop. The skill was the human eye. It should be able to detect the slightest wave in the paint or not apply uniformly. And now the cameras and robotics say, your eyes are not reliable. I'm more reliable. And data shows that. Data shows that the paint rejection in that company has gone down by 15 to 17%. 15% rejection because of paint means a lot of money for an organization. Because at the end of the day, when the paint is rejected, the car has to be rebuilt. You cannot even touch up at all. That's one example. But when you look at that, then with the reduced cost and spending fast, now many organizations are looking at this afresh. I spent half my career with Unilever, very traditional. If you bear with me, and one of my avatars was head of recruitment. Recruitment in Sandy was that time was the second job of senior leaders. We could not hire a management trainee without 2 vice presidents being present in the board. And every 5 weeks, the chairman himself would spend 1 full day recruiting. Why? Because company's philosophy was recruitment cannot be delegated, period. It's the job of a leader to identify leaders, future leaders. Now, why in this story? Such a strong belief in human judgment about recruitment. In November, I was in Blackfriars headquarters in London, Unilever, and I met a girl called Susan Braithwaite. Susan Braithwaite had come there after being interviewed 3 times, and it was her 4th connection with everyone, but her first connection with human beings in everyone. She had gone to 3 rounds of interviews on video calls. One of them was where 26 points in her face were monitored for muscle twitch, tightening, dilation of pupils, movement of lips, eyes, corner of eyes, and this data was then compared with 165,000, and I'm talking figures which are really surprising me, of these similar people who have gone through interviews, and they verified whether there is authenticity or not. And after she passed through that test, was she called to the Unilever house to meet the first human being. That meeting was hardly about 15-20 minutes. They gave her an offer. Of course, she was being hired as an intern. Look at the distance. What I'm pointing out here is that when traditional companies, we thought that this was our USP. This cannot be sacrificed. This is written in stone. They are also recognizing the times have changed. And with that time, if we don't change, we'll be left behind. And this is a very strong feeling in my mind that if Unilever can let go recruitment judgment machines, we can see a lot of things happening somewhere else, much faster also. Now, with this type of technology coming in, one thing that is evidently happening is that the cost of production, manufacturing has gone down. So when we could talk about this Chinese product invading our market, we are being actually short-sighted. Why are they invading market? I got a bicycle the other day from Decathlon. Do you have Decathlon everywhere? Is it only here? It doesn't matter. And I paid how much? About 15,000 for that. Well, 7 gears, not that I know how to use those 7 gears, but I thought it was a very sexy bike and good for exercising. Same bike with little less gears and all was about 3,500 made in China. And I said, what an idiot. Why would I buy a 15,000 bike to do the same function going from point A to B or to exercise? Why would Chinese have a better upper hand on all of us and other countries? Only one thing. They've used a high level of technology. And it's misnomer to think that China has high labor intensity, so they are not working on cost arbitrage. They are working on volume arbitrage. And volume arbitrage can only happen when you have technology on your side. So the speed is making big impact. Let me move to the suddenness part of it. At one time, all of us have gone through incremental improvement in everything that we do. And it's a routine thing to happen. Things are working, somebody does a tweaking a little bit of tuk-tak here, and things work better, productivity goes up, production goes up, quality improves, rejection goes down. And this we have seen for years and years together. What is now happening is that instead of incremental improvement, an inflection improvement is happening. Suddenly there is a sharp jump. If you remember the old book in the 70s, In Search of Excellence, their top leaders and company gave examples of how some companies were running okay, all right, up to all right. Suddenly they went up. Same thing is happening to products and services. Then the inflection point makes a big difference in big boys and big girls and not so big boys and big girls in industry. With that inflection, the whole game changes. Tesla has come up with a car which is actually 16 moving parts. And I'm told by my friends in Maruti that a normal car, including bolts and nuts and washers, has 23,600 some odd parts. And Tesla gets lifetime warranty. Something breaks down, it replaces 16 parts. I'm not going into this driverless car. There will be a new technology which will bring about a complete change in the way we use some of the products that we used to. owning a car. Services that Uber and Ola's offer, and there is, I met a gentleman, Sahib sitting from Zomato. Where's Sahib? Okay, I met him in the lift, and we're talking about how Zomato does it. He has 165,000 employees, of only 4,800 are on his payroll. The delivery people are not even covered for anything, no cost, no liability, nothing for the company. And we sometimes think in our own socialistic pattern of thinking, but they are left on the road, what if they meet with an accident? Those were the thinking of the past. We talk of tomorrow, things will be thought differently. I'm not giving any value judgment as right or wrong. Please make that. I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do, but it is happening in reality. 150,000 minus 4,000 people, they're all on the road on their own motorcycles, own risk of injury, but still managing to earn and deliver in 30-35 minutes a product or service. Watson, I spent a good amount of years with IBM, and at one time I was involved in the project team internationally on working on predictive attrition. I felt squeamish coming from experience of being in touch with the pulse of the people, finding out what makes them tick, what doesn't make them tick, what makes them stay. It was at one time a bit uncomfortable to think that a machine will tell us who will go. What do we do then? Where is our mind going to be occupied? But the predictability is so accurate, and I will now use this. The predictability is so accurate that last week I mentioned Unity, she was in, not last week, last month, and she mentioned that IBM had saved $300 million in 2018 for controlling attrition. So that's big impact on business. At the end of the day, these are not sexy things that we do, which looks very modern. If we don't do it, we are in Jurassic Park. This is all running a business efficiently. And HR people have to understand that we just don't do it because it's fancy, it's not. It's imperative. How many of us are aware what type of technology will come in my industry and what proactive action I have to take? Come to the last part of security of jobs. I'll be on time. I'm keeping track. I don't think there's hawa about jobs will be lost. If you go back to 70s, and I was starting my career in early 70s, the unions were ferociously opposing computerization. Why? Because there was a strong belief that computers will replace jobs or reduce jobs. And it took us years, not too many years, but some years, to convince that at least this will facilitate work. No jobs were lost, jobs were replaced. And today, you ask the same union leader to work 1 week without a computer, and the union will go on a strike. Why? How can we work without a computer? The first resistance, wave of resistance, is what we get scared with, that it will not sell. It will sell. If it doesn't sell, we have to sell, period. The survival of the organization is absolutely overriding any other considerations, union, employees. I'm not saying sacrifice employees' interests, but the convincing part and the logical part has to be played a role by the HR. Gartner report came out, I think, January or February, talked about a very nice table of 231 jobs that will be obsolete. They'll be disappearing. Because of that, they say some 70, 80 are already gone. Any job which is predictable, repetitive, will not exist. Logical. Machine can do the same thing. But there's no threat to jobs, because people who will come out of that slot can be retrained, reskilled to do something else. And surprisingly, in that same list, there were some 50 odd jobs that will continue. And one job which amused me was customer relations. Logic. You can't have, I would like, if I'm irritated about this machine, to go to a robo and say, good, you want a nice machine, why it's not working? It will work. Press 1 for working, press 2 for not working. I want a human interaction. And where there is judgment and there is discretion, those jobs will continue. So The answer in security of job lies in just shifting the panel from repetitive jobs, boring jobs at times, causes attrition and unhappy workplace, to make them do some work which is discretionary and thinking. And that itself will bring about productivity increase and production increase and improvement in the organization. Logically, it should. But how do we do this transition? And that's where the whole idea of adapt, and gentlemen who inaugurated use that word adapt and adopt, will, instead of resisting, we'll have to adapt and adopt this technology to make sure that we are in line with the future and not lagging behind just because we seem to feel that what we've done is always right. Last part. So at the end of the day, how to deal with it? I will take 2 points. One, dealing is done by organization for preparing for the future. Second, as an individual, the organization will have to invest heavily in reskilling and retraining people. There's no option. However, the cost is. So I read somewhere a small thing that the CFO advising CEO that, so why do we spend so much money on training and developing people? At the end of the day, they leave and the competition leaves, benefits. And the CEO was possibly the next HR guy, said that it will be a disaster if you don't train them and they stay with us. And that's the important part. This is not an optional cost anymore. It is a business imperative cost, and it's built into business plan. Because at the end of the day, it is only a matter of time that the workforce will become obsolete. And if the workforce is obsolete, the business will get negatively impacted people. There's no brainer about that. And other part is that we proactively make sure that we bring about this preparedness in the organization. Most of the time, when something happens in industry or in technology, brings about tectonic plate movement, then people wake up and say, now what do we do? Well, one cannot predict everything, but understanding business thoroughly, which many of us in HR are accused of, we don't understand. We understand PVD, PAD, CHR to the last decimal point. But what makes a business leader lose his or her sleep is something that abuse us. We have to make sure that we understand business, the competition, absolutely thoroughly, so that we are able to advise business as to how we should be preparing ourselves. It works. So 2 minutes to go. Now how do we switch off? As an individual, I feel renewal our skill is absolutely no option. We get scared when we talk of things and we do not know. Sometimes we talk of how many of us can raise our hand and say, you can explain blockchain clearly to an 11-year-old child. Except Praveen, you're an expert. Maybe we should ask Praveen to explain to us. I'm serious about it. We hear all these words and we talk about them, we hear people speak about that and say, yes, I know, blockchain is on the way. Oh, artificial, yes, it's on the way. How many of us really know? Now, that fear made me go and attend a full two-day workshop on data analytics. And they talked about Python. I'm a very keen wildlife photographer. And to me, Python was a big snake. You don't know it was the software that ran this. And then they showed this movie called Moneyball. Have you seen that? And how this baseball team uses data to reduce cost of buying players and winning. You know, I thought the game was played by people sitting on a computer. If Virat Kohli was playing well, he was chosen in the team. I thought that. But the Indian team last year used the same data analysis for picking players. Sitting through that was an eye-opener for me. I enrolled myself quite some time back on 3D printing. I was intrigued. So what does 3D printing do? So I proposed Coursera and did a 3 months study on, not that I would understand half of it, I'm not a technical person. But the fact that even ice cream can be made by 3D printing, by putting it together and then bombarding it with nitrogen. What it opens your eyes is when you have to learn something new, there is a method of approaching it rather than leaving it to chance and hoping you will pick up or hoping that the organization will prepare you. They will not. And if we are to be left behind, we have to just feel sorry for ourselves because we have not contributed to learning journey. And one of the good ways to possibly learn is not only reading, but I only one thought behind which benefited me is to get a reverse mentor. Tag on to some youngster, make life miserable for them to teach you. And it really works wonders. So my last point would be that change is there, it was always there, so no hookah. Change is fast, yes, it is fast, it is very sudden. And technology is moving so quickly that many of us are obsolete already and we do not know. The whole idea is to actually embrace change. And most importantly, in my opinion, enjoy change. It's like when you go for a holiday to a different place and try new food, you don't got experience of that. You shall try that. Go to that place, try this food. And if you look at change of technology happening around us with anticipation that I will enjoy it, although I don't want to say heroic of it, I will learn. It will make a big difference. So thank you very much for your time and attention. I appreciate it.
Please stay 1 minute. So friends, I think that was a perfect choice for the topic New Age Traits of Agile HR Leaders. From the way he spoke, I think he has a very agile mind. I'd like to request Mr. Sanjay Gupta, Chief Architect and Member Governing Council Shared Services Forum, to please come up and give a memento to Dr. K. Basre.
Thank you very much. It was very mesmerizing and real. That's right. We can't do it better. You're ready to
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite quite a name to reckon with in the HR fraternity, Mr. Praveer Jha, for the keynote address, which is Building Organizations of Tomorrow. He will have it in 3 parts: empowering teams in decision-making, performance enablement, and co-creation of long-term value, bringing a sense of personal commitment. Praveer Jha, an alumnus of St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and ex-LRI of Jaipur, is the founder and CEO of Praveer Jha People Advisory, combining an impeccable academic and professional record. In his stint as a civil servant, he handled the entire gamut of HR and IR issues of the Indian ordnance factories, and then he switched over to the corporate world. He has handled all areas in HR with special interest in organization transformation, talent management, OD interventions, global HR strategy, employer branding, and leadership capability development. He is widely recognized as a transformation guru, an accomplished thought leader, tweeter, whose views are closely followed across various platforms. Mr. Praveer Jha.
Can we do some change? If it's okay, I'll walk around a little. I'm told that I have 20 odd minutes to speak and another 10 minutes to take some responsive questions. So this is a rapid fire session, and I thank you for, as always, setting it up so beautifully for me. The 3 words are very, very powerful. Are we really only good? Or does it mean something else? Organization. Will organizations survive? Is the entity of organization going to remain the way it has been so far? And tomorrow, to take care of the that's not all. And the word tomorrow. Now tomorrow, what is the definition? How longitudinal is tomorrow? Right? I can think very magical words. So my compliments to the organizers for choosing what appears a very simple theme. But each of these issues for business leaders and HR practitioners is actually a challenge of a lifetime. So I'm going to use a little deck, 5, 6 themes I'll try and talk about. Hopefully you will not agree with many of them. But the hope also is that there will be something that will knock your heads over, right? And the idea is more to leave these as provocations, as invitations to action, because you have the whole day to deliberate. But very importantly, I think it is a time when HR can make tomorrow. And it's with that request and hope that I present this to you. Here's the slide. Okay. How does it go? Does it change? We are still in today. It's not tomorrow yet. Does it work? Just help me with this, or I'll ask you to change, or I'll speak extra. Okay. It's working? Okay, so thanks. Future of work. What really, a lot of our HR thinking, our HR strategy flows from really an organization strategy. Many times I'm asked, so Praveen, what's the HR strategy of the company? The HR strategy of a company, and that's been my experience when I work with some of the largest companies in India, cannot be divorced from your organizational strategy. The HR head is the chief organization officer today. I don't think it's just an HR. That is a very, very outdated view within HR and also for the board. I think the world has changed. The future of work is so important. What is work going to look like? What business will you be in? Will you take your product and service that you've done for many, many years as sacrosanct and then look for clients who will possibly you can go and peddle with? Or will you change your work thinking? And I'll have a slide when I talk about the customer. But it is very important to imagine and reimagine all the time, what will your work look like? What will your company do? What is the start point? Are you going to be a prisoner of your past? Or will you create your own future? These are hardcore issues, and I do not observe HR leaders of saying that will come from someone. Then I will do the downstream. That era is over. You cannot design a workplace of tomorrow if you do not know what's the future of work. How will work get done? So what's the nature of work? How will that work get delivered to the end client? Akhil talked about in his last S, and I want to pick that up. I don't think the world of employment as we understand in HR is going to exist in the way that we've seen for so many decades. But does it mean that HR's role in creating a future workplace will get subverted or become diminutive? The answer is no. I used to head HR for Tata Motors, and I remember creating a 12-member HR team. I hired them, created a team, because when you buy a car, you don't meet an employee of the company. And HR cannot say, I'm only responsible for employees of the company. You're responsible for the future of your business, for delivering your business today and sustaining your business tomorrow. Therefore, if the leadership is where the experience and the make or buy decision gets created, you cannot say that the leader is employees and meanwhile we are poles apart. Doesn't make sense. Now, a classical HR head would say that, well, that's not my job, but it is your job because that's where you make or make your business. And then you use these 12 people to handle and train the dealerships because they don't have the wherewithal, the muscle, the HR, contemporary HR thinking of hiring right, or rewarding right, or retaining right. So a lot of it will depend on what is your business model. What is your work going to look like? Will it be always what you've done with incremental changes, or will you subvert? Nokia today is a bad example to cite, but if Nokia had believed in what they did, they would only be in the business of good. They would not be doing the kind of things that they did. And this, as again, Akhil said, in the context of both suddenness and speed becomes very critical. And therefore, building is something which you cannot afford. One day over time, I will do it. It doesn't happen that way anymore. You've got to almost build tomorrow 23 hours for building an organization. I'm stealing your example. This is what is expected of you. You can't do it, get out of this business. It doesn't make sense. Someone else will do it for you. So future of work is a very, very important strategic choice to make as a company and as HR. And it is your job, it is your responsibility to be a co-conspirator, co-creator of this particular decision. Am I connecting? Does this make sense? Yeah. So this is the first provocation that I would have, and I hope this time it works. Yes, it does. Right? If you are going to be in that kind of business, which you are looking at the future, that future need not be 100 years from now. I don't even know whether 20 years is too long. It's too long, right? How will you redefine talent? How will you hire? You talked about the Unilever experience. First, that is still downstream. My first question and provocation is, do you even know what talent you need to build the business that you're wanting to create for tomorrow? What skill sets are needed? I once worked with a very large Fortune 500 company and its HR head, and I asked the manufacturing director for all the time I was there, tell me how will your shop floor look like 5 years from now? And I never had an answer. The inability of many leaders and line managers to even see 5 years from now is so limited. But it is so critical because a lot of the make or buy decisions for talent will rest on it. If you have to make it, you have the time and you have the raw, sustained material that you can mold into relevant talent. And to buy, I don't even know whether there's a market or a catchment where I can buy talent from. I personally have very strongly practiced and believed, and I feel that will only intensify, looking cross-industry, cross-function. It is absolutely disgusting sometimes to believe that people want a plug-and-play guy. Line managers and HR guys, as you worked in competition in that industry, in that function, and he's the right guy. Headhunters, as bad. Their inability to influence freshness in thinking. So it's a very incestuous reality we have created. And when we talk about building organizations for tomorrow, you can't build an organization for tomorrow by doing or looking at talent in the way you defined them for all these years. Are we willing to change our mind? Are we willing to do something that we've never done? Otherwise, we will be like good eye carrots. We'll keep flapping our wings, and one day we'll drop dead. And it's not easy. It sounds easy to say this, but it's not easy. Because past success is very difficult to let go. But this is very important. What is the talent that you're looking for? And I'm not looking only at leadership and board and all that rubbish. The people who make the difference. I sit on an RBI's HR advisory board, and in the last some years, they've shrunk from 40,000 to 14,000 governmental establishments. It's possible. And the kind of things that are happening, we don't know, but the nuance of that skill and the talent is going to be very different than what was classical. I don't even know whether the patterns of recruitment selection should remain the same. So everything is about what is it that you want to be in the future. Start from there and work backwards today. I think I heard this in the morning from either Akhil or an earlier speaker. This entire issue is about both co-creation and co-evolution. For far too long, we have only stuck ourselves to co-creation. Multiple stakeholders get together, you co-create. Co-create? It's a discrete event. I don't know whether it's relevant 3 years later, 2 years later, 5 years later. How do you mutate? How do you co-evolve? How do you destroy something? How do you add on something? And this almost co-sharing this entire thing from genesis to evolution and closing the loop with continuous iteration is going to be very critical. As HR, it's our job. It's no longer about just the union or some statutory compliance, nothing that is going away. But this is your job. How will you ensure? How will you work with your leadership? How will you coach your leadership? How will you show the mirror to your leadership? And it takes courage. It is no longer about ending at co-creation. It is really about co-evolution. Everything will mutate. And the earlier you are able to mutate, the better the possibility of survival and hopefully the cause for you to thrive. But it's not easy. And this is what if you ask me, is HR's strategic shift. You're not going to be in the business of doing, that's not your job anymore. That's not the way I have looked at my job for 3 decades. Your job is actually to get people to do their job. And it's very tough to get someone to do their job. And this is the strategic shift of HR. It's no longer about running payroll. There are much smarter people who can do that thing. Right? Your job is not about doing. Your job is really about getting it done. And for that, you need to understand your business. I think we talked about that. I don't expect HR guys to be the best accountants, best salespeople, best R&D scientists, best manufacturing people, or whatever else. I'm not expecting. But do you understand where value gets created? Do you understand where value gets leached? Your job is simple. Your job is to maximize value or minimize value or erosion. And you use levers of organization. Talent, systems, policy, process, organization, design, whatever it is, to do either this or reduce this. That's it. But it is so important, therefore, the 8 standard example that you cited is very clear. Can you explain to me your business? If you cannot explain to me your business in 2 minutes, you don't know your business, period. You don't know your business. The board doesn't spend more time than they see in India, right? I've seen enough boards. They don't spend more time. So you've got to give them what they need immediately, right? What's the core issue? And therefore, co-creation and co-evolution is a very important dimension for HR practitioners. And for that, we need to up our game. The way we think, the way we envision, the courage it takes, the foresight, the willingness to kind of rock the boat, do the counterintuitive. That is what is going to help us on this journey. Otherwise, just to do what we've always done, honestly, AI is there to help you with everything that Akhil has already alluded to. And the reason I'm bringing all this up, and I put this in the center of my flow, is this: the way I visualize organizations of tomorrow, any organization, there will fundamentally be only 2 things that will build and sustain and nurture the organization. One is innovation, and the other is customer centricity. So let's take a couple of minutes and talk about why do I believe that this is important. Doesn't matter what is the nature of your business, including my first job as a civil servant. The government of India itself needs to innovate and get customer centric. I'm not absolving anyone. You are an NGO. You will need to innovate and get more customer centric. It is not just about a commercial organization. You're the army. You need to innovate and get customer centric. Your definition and the nuance could vary. And the reason I say this is innovation is not always going to be a big bang invention. People believe when they talk about innovation, it's invention. I'm not talking about invention. I fundamentally believe everything can be done better or not done at all. Don't do it. I just moved to my own little house, the smallest house in my life, as I started my own venture, and I commissioned a firm. It's a startup in a way, a new generation firm. But I've been telling the guy who's interfacing with me on the side that actually you guys have a huge HR problem because the left hand, right hand, they don't know each other. And the client is not bothered really. You can innovate your entire workflow. And this is, mind you, a very new age company set up by the usual ITIM kind of folks. So obviously they know their mind. But it's not working. As a client, I can tell you it's not working. They are not an efficient organization. They're very good with their marketing blitzkrieg, but they're not an efficient organization. How can you stop that and innovate? The small tweaks you can do. And you can actually cut down by 20% the time that it takes for you to finish a project and possibly multiply the experience of the customer. There will always be an issue of the customer. Who is your customer? Maybe your customer you'll have to change, you'll have to redefine. Maybe you'll have to tell your existing customers possibilities of where you can help that the customer is not conscious of. Apple is a top of example when iPhone or iPad or whatever else got done. But it doesn't matter what the nature of business is. If we cannot innovate, and that doesn't, in the next slide, I'm going to connect with therefore why and how, and the customer centricity. You cannot, as an HR guy, say the sales guy is the guy who manages the customer. How many of you go out to the field? How many times do you meet the customer, your retailer, how many times are you just a fly on the wall watching an interaction happen? If you don't do that, it's very difficult for you to sit in the office and be able to actually help build organizations for tomorrow. Because organizations of tomorrow are going to get created by the muck, the experience, the freshness of thinking, the constraints of today. And we've got to therefore go out. I was mentioning to some people before the session, in HR itself, are we bringing enough plurality? Are we getting non-HR people to spend some time in the HR function? Are you going out? And it is far too cliche to the whole marketing ecosystem. I'm sure Akhil, I would have been a good marketing guy. Honestly, I can sell ice cream better than the guy who sells ice cream genuinely. But it's the mindset. It's the mindset. And this is very core to my belief of what organization of tomorrow will rest on. If these pillars are not fundamental, anything else you do, but if this is missing, I don't think we can build organizations for tomorrow. Right? Therefore, as HR people, it is our job to keep reminding, keep hand-holding people to believe that this is something that must happen. Which brings me to the last couple of points. It is therefore the kind of culture that you will create. I heard someone talk about, the culture fit, and I hear this very often, particularly in HR, I hear it all the time. Culture fit. I don't hire for culture fit. I don't honestly hire for culture fit. And there are people here in the room who I hire, right? I don't look. Culture